Stugotz here. Spring is your chance to make your lawn look like the perfectly trimmed work of art you watch your favorite team run across on TV. But before you get to work, make sure you can get to work. Advance Auto Parts will test your lawn and garden battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, grab an Autocraft lawn and garden battery starting at just $22.99. Plus, enter the code DAN20 when you buy online to save 20%. Think ahead. Think Advance at Advance Auto Parts. The Dan Le Batard with Stugotz Show podcast is presented by Capital One. This is Banking Reimagined. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Jeremy Fowler going to be there in just a second. Talk about what's going on in the NFL. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Big Three Basketball League is working to launch Under Quarantine, a reality show style 3-on-3 tournament. It's Big Brother meets Big Three. League founder Ice Cube told the Undefeated's Mark Spears. Major League Baseball says that its minor league players will be paid through April 8th. Major League Soccer will extend the suspension of its season through May 10th. And finally, the Cambridge Bar and Grill in Cambridge, Minnesota announced all orders totaling over $25 now come with a free roll of toilet paper, a product some consumers are having difficulty finding due to shortages from customers stocking up for the coronavirus quarantine. Where do you need a Blink security camera? On your porch to help protect deliveries? Helping keep your family safe when you travel? How about alerting you when the kids get home from school? Where do you need Blink security cameras? Visit BlinkProtect.com/Dan for all the latest headlines and information. Tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. All right, Jeremy Fowler going to join us here in just a second on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Le Batard's internet connection is down once again. So none of us have froze. Billy is as relaxed as ever. Chris has just got a smile on his face because he always has a smile on his face. Roy is miserable because he's always miserable. And I don't know what Tony's doing today, but he's the best looking damn guy on this show. That's for sure. Anyway, let's bring on Jeremy Fowler to join us here. ESPN senior writer, covering the Steelers and more. Wrote an interesting piece yesterday, and thank you for joining us, Jeremy, that teams are unable to oversee physicals due to the coronavirus outbreak. They have added provisions in player contracts stating that failed physicals will result in fortified signing bonus money, league sources have told Jeremy and ESPN. How do you think the players are going to react to this?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's a point of contention already among some player agents and some teams because, you know, they want some sort of standard language here that says that, look, for the most part, they're going to be fine if they agree to terms on a contract, that they should be paid out that contract unless there's a crazy circumstance. So the issue they have is if you agree to terms on a deal now and then you can't take a physical for, say, 3 months because of this coronavirus, you can't get to the team facility until then, and then for some reason you don't pass a physical, then you would have to forfeit that money. Usually it's the other way around where you have to take a physical to even get a deal done. So we're seeing that happening, like with Tom Brady taking his physical with an independent doctor in New York. You can still do those things if the team wants to look at you later on. So there's a lot of gray area. This is sort of the issue with trying to move forward with a new league year at the same time where we have a pandemic. There's just things like this have to get sorted out, and nobody really has a clear-cut answer.
Do you think it will get sorted out, and how would they sort it out? They get somewhere. It doesn't seem fair, so I would imagine that they'll meet in the middle there, the owners and the players, because what is being proposed or what you're hearing doesn't seem fair at all.
Right, and so a lot of players are essentially agreeing to these deals or signing them and then just hoping for the best, knowing that they have to just stay in shape, which is kind of a weird thing. And usually there aren't a lot of failed physicals, maybe 1 or 2 a year where a deal gets rescinded. So for the most part, it's not a problem, but, it's you would hate to see somebody lose money like that over that issue. So, their teams might take a softer line. Not all teams are going that hard on it. They can that would be probably a PR nightmare if they were taking away money 3 months from now because of the virus.
I think the real interesting one here is Cam Newton because of all the injury history there and, teams are going to be hesitant. Yeah, that's going to be like, how are teams going to navigate? How is Cam going to navigate through this? It's going to be difficult, no?
Right. I know there's some trepidation with some teams because they don't know what they would be getting even if they looked into them. And then there's the fact that the quarterback musical chairs are pretty much taken up. I mean, there's not a whole lot left there. You have the Chargers, who it looks like they're going with Tyrod Taylor at this point. Now, maybe they'll reassess that if Cam Newton is released, which I don't expect to happen today. But there really hasn't been a lot of traction with trade partners. You know, the Panthers were never going to get a first-round pick for him in the first place, especially now because of the issues with the physical. And so most teams feel pretty good that he will be healthy next year, but they just don't know for sure. You know, he's putting out Instagram videos, and he looks good in his workouts, but that only shows you so much. So it's an issue, and, you know, maybe around the summertime there'll be more clarity with Cam, but you could also sign him just based on his pedigree. You know that he has an MVP, and maybe he can return to that, but it's hardly a guarantee.
Jeremy Fowler, ESPN senior NFL writer, also covers the Steelers and more for ESPN. He is with us here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Because you cover the Steelers, it begs the question, Antonio Brown, can you envision Antonio Brown going with Tom Brady to Tampa Bay?
Well, I can envision it. In this scenario, I don't know that the Bucs need it. You know, they have two elite receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, have some good tight ends. You know, I think it was more of an issue with the Patriots where Tom didn't want to see him leave. And if he re-signed there, maybe they could bring him back just for more firepower. I do know that Brady and Brown have had some correspondence in recent months about, hey, maybe we can play together one day. But you know, that's hardly a slam dunk. I know Bruce Arians does not have a good relationship with Antonio Brown. They used to, but over the last year or two, they've had some verbal sparring online. And, you know, I just don't see that in Tampa, at least. Brown's a far away from even getting suspended, let alone playing. You know, you have to go through a lot of steps with counseling and checking NFL boxes away from the field, make sure you're doing okay before they can even hand you a suspension for all your wrongdoings. He's not even there yet, and so he's a long way from playing.
Jeremy Fowler with us here on ESPN Radio. Ben Roethlisberger gave an interview where he said he expects himself to have not just a big year this year, he expects the team to also have a big year, but he said big years ahead of him. Do you expect Ben Roethlisberger, as a guy who covers the Steelers for ESPN, can you still envision Roethlisberger having not a big season, but big years ahead of him?
I'm not going to go that far yet. I think he'll come back and play pretty well just because he's still a top 10 quarterback. He's a high level guy. It's just there are still some uncertainties whether he can get the velocity on the ball coming off that elbow injury. Now he's on the right track and passed all the steps he needs to, so perhaps he can get there, but that's just something he has to show. Now the Steelers feel good about it enough where, you know, they don't really haven't planned to sign any sort of starting quarterback. I know there's some speculation about Jameis Winston. I don't know if that will happen, but, you know, either way, he would be the backup. I mean, Big Ben, they're ready for him for the next 2 years to play out a very lucrative contract, and you know, they feel pretty good about where he is. But, you know, losing Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell those last few years, it's uncertain how this offense is going to do with a lack of weapons. You know, they just don't have a lot of firepower right now and need to add some in the draft.
How mad are the Steelers? I know that Stugotz asked you about Antonio Brown, but how mad are the Steelers or compassionate? Where will you find in the Steeler locker room something that extends into concern and compassion for Antonio Brown?
Well, I think it's all the above. You know, there was some anger there for sure, but a lot of people really did care for him when he was going through his problems, and then when he eventually left the team. But they knew that Pittsburgh was a safe haven for him, that he shouldn't have left or forced his way out, because they felt like it was sort of a cocoon for him where, you know, if he was late to meetings or had some issues, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers would manage it all and get him to the field, because that was really the only way to manage him, was to not micromanage him. And, you know, so they knew when he went to Oakland that he really didn't stand a chance. And so now I think there's still some players that wouldn't mind playing with him if he could get his life in order and get back on the field. You know, they feel like he's that much of a difference maker, and a lot of guys in that locker room were pretty good friends with him, but he also had some problems, too, with his explosive behavior and, you know, just the way he would sort of get angry and have the mood swings that you wouldn't expect. And so I doubt he's back in Pittsburgh, but, you know, he still has relationships there, and people do care about him.
Are you willing to make any sort of amateur diagnoses when it comes to everything with him, where I understand that he was problematic before that, but the public didn't have – literally the public had no idea that Antonio Brown was a problem child. through week 16 before it all came apart after one game and in one off season.
Right. And then it was just an avalanche after that. And I think Pittsburgh managed that, and they also protected him. They kept him out of harm's way in some ways. There were police calls to his house over multiple years that never really got released until after he left. Now, maybe that's just because people started to dig into it after that because he had become a problem. But these are things you just didn't hear about unless you went looking for them. And until 2018 or so, there wasn't a lot of reason to look, 2019. And so I try to focus on the anecdotal part of it, which is you talk to several players, you talk to people around him. They specifically reference the mood swings, how he'd be fine 1 minute, he'd get really angry and start cussing at people the next. And so you'd have some of that. I don't know what that means as far as an official diagnosis. I wouldn't go there, but it's the personality was very hard to deal with for a lot of ex-players and a lot of associates who worked for him for a short period of time because they'd eventually be fired or things would happen where they couldn't really work with their D anymore.
Jeremy, 5,000 yards and 33 touchdowns a year ago. Is it as simple as the 30 interceptions as to why Jameis Winston is struggling to find a team, to find a home? Because guys like that normally find, first off, they don't get let go by their team. Secondly, they find the new home pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's the fact that he's 5 years in and are making these bad decisions that the Bucs couldn't trust him. This is a guy they drafted first overall, wanted to give every benefit of the doubt. And so it became really clear at the NFL Combine that not only were they sort of waffling on him publicly, but even privately you heard rumblings of the team kind of ripping him a little bit when they talked to the people around the league that they just couldn't trust him, and he looks like an MVP one play and then a third stringer the next. And so I think that just caught up to Tampa, and a lot of teams right now as a result do look at him as a backup, but there is a lot of raw talent still there that's probably untapped. I doubt he ends up in New England, but I just can't help but wonder, if you get a coach like Belichick, can you fix him? If you can reduce the mistakes. That would be pretty poetic if you brought him in and they could do that and use the talent he has to move the ball downfield. Probably unlikely, but right now there just aren't a lot of homes for him unless you try to do the Ryan Tannehill formula from last year, be like a high-level backup, go somewhere where there's maybe a shaky quarterback situation and try to get in some games and show you can do it again.
Jeremy, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it.
Hey, anytime, guys. Appreciate it.
If you missed any of the show, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Dan Le Batard Show, plus our Miami-only hour and our Best of Podcast on Demand in the ESPN app. And subscribe to the Le Batard and Friends Podcast Network featuring South Beach Sessions, Stupidity, and Mystery Crate. Please rate and subscribe. New episodes are posted every week wherever you get your podcasts.
Despite the limitations, we keep trying to churn out that content. There is a new Mystery Crate for you to digest if you have missed the local hour this week, because that is the one thing that took a hit this week, that and my internet. But what we have here on Mystery Crate, we've got the guys together, and you can enjoy yourself listening to that if you are bored during quarantine. We will get to Cody Zeller of the Charlotte Hornets to tell us what he's learning about today. He will join us in about 10 minutes. Greg Cote of the Miami Herald is about to do a Back in My Day. But just before we came back on air, this is an actual conversation that Stugotz and Chris Cody had. They were talking about Brooks Koepka, and they were talking about the fact that he had just hit a drive 3 football fields long, left-handed, and both of them muttered under their breath some version of, "We get it, Brooks, you're good at this golf thing." And then both of them mumbled, frustrated, haters, jealous, bleep hole. And it's not because they don't like him. It's just because he's better at golf than any of us are at anything.
No, he's better with his offhanded golf than any of us are with our strong hand at anything. It's unbelievable. Fowler went out and fired a 90 left-handed, played a full round, fired a 90. I am lefty. I shoot like 190. It's unbelievable.
Let's get to Chris Cody's father, Greg Cote. Bristol, go ahead and play the Back in My Day, the musty music and production.
And now, it is time to take a trip down memory lane. Here's your guy, Greg Cote, with Back in My Day.
Quarantining. Okay, so the world turned upside down within the past 10 days or so, and we're all coming to grips with it, right? Bizarre phrases like social distancing, self-quarantining, and shelter-in-place have entered the lexicon. I am not here to make light of a grave situation. Hell, I was listening to that New York University Dr. Celine Gounder talk about this on the Batard show this week, and it was the first time I curled up in the fetal position under a desk since JFK and the Cuban Missile Crisis. What I am getting a kick out of are people acting like staying at home is the biggest burden in the world. Are you insane? I'm loving it. I'm lazy. I don't want to go to work. I'm antisocial. I don't want to be around people. I'm fine padding around the house all day in a T-shirt and boxer shorts, playing Ms. Pac-Man, noodling around on the computer, writing, making an omelet, working on the next Greg Cote Show podcast, out every Monday. Subscribe, rate, and review, listening to music, and actively not turning on the TV for news updates. This is nothing new to me. I spent my entire childhood alone in my bedroom at 1440 playing Stratomatic baseball. Rolling dice, baby. My mother and the other hens were in the other room playing mahjong. 4 crack, 3 bam, as I was hunkered in, not only playing baseball on a piece of cardboard, but doing play-by-play like Kurt Gowdy. And you wonder why I only had like 3 dates in the entirety of my high school years. My mother always used to tell people, Greg loves being alone. He's a self-amuser. Hey, if you're bored already, search around the house and find one of those weird rectangular things filled with pulp and words. It's called a book. Reach up under the high shelf of your closet and find the Monopoly game you last played in 1983. We are well equipped in 2020 to stay at home in a way we weren't during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. I survived that. I can survive this. Nowadays, you can spend hours just crawling down rabbit holes on the internet. And TV? My God. My wife and I just binge-watched the first 2 seasons of Shrill, starring A.D. Bryant on Hulu. Highly recommended, by the way. I'm great with staying at home. The alternative is me standing in the Dolphins locker room during media access, where the only people there are the long snapper nobody ever wants to talk to and a dozen bored, loitering reporters. Meanwhile, on South Beach, spring breakers are still congregating and partying, seemingly unable to not socialize. Their oblivious selfishness astoundingly reckless and dangerous as they insanely volunteer themselves as modern-day lepers. Me? I'm happily alone in the abode and about to get back to what I was doing. The Stratomatic game is dusted off. It's 1967, middle of the 5th, and Yaz is up. Come on, Dice. I'm Greg Cote, and that's how it was back in my day.
Yeah.
Cody Zeller. Cody Zeller tells us about what he's learning today. Next.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Cody Zeller going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, our daily check-in with Cody. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Big Three Basketball League is working to launch under quarantine a reality show style 3-on-3 tournament. It's Big Brother meets Big Three, league founder Ice Cube told the Undefeated's Mark Spears. Major League Baseball says that its minor league players will be paid through April 8th. Major League Soccer will extend the suspension of its season through May 10th. And finally, a real estate website is seeking a job applicant to fly to Dubai and spend a week testing out a luxury apartment. The website, Dubai Property for Sale, announced it is offering one lucky person the chance to be flown out to Dubai for an all-expenses-paid trip for 1 week of sunshine, luxury, and testing out one of our high-end apartments. The applicant would then be a finalist for a more permanent position as a property broker finds buyers and coordinates sales of the high-end residences. Weird. Wendy's has breakfast now. We're talking fresh cracked eggs on every breakfast sandwich. Yep, it's going to be America's favorite breakfast. Download the Wendy's app for deals on your new favorite breakfast. Yep, for this, see you at Wendy's in the morning. Available at participating U.S. Wendy's. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
We will check in with Cody Zeller of the Charlotte Hornets for as many days in a row as he will have us. He has told us that he is trying to learn something new every day while he is in quarantine. So tell us about your learning yesterday and whatever learning plans you have for today, Cody, and thank you again for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me back on. This is the third day that I've been on, and I told my brother that, I was going back on here for the third day, and so this is more success than you've had in any of your dating life. They're done with you after the first date, so it's really an honor to be back. But anyway, so yesterday, I went on a run. Last time I talked to you guys, I was going around, and it was a great run. Beautiful day in Charlotte. It was actually pretty cool to see all the kids are outside playing. A lot of families. There's a couple of us planting flowers. There's a family of four who's out for a bike ride. So in the midst of all the craziness and all the stuff that we got going on, it was actually kind of cool to see. There was actually a little bit of good and positivity that might come from this. So anyway, the run, and then other than that, I did some laundry. I cleaned up. We had some news that broke that we aren't allowed to go in the facility anymore. So I'm actually road tripping home right now, 9-hour drive from Charlotte back to Indiana. So I'd rather be stuck at home with some home cooking rather than be stuck at home alone in Charlotte. So I'm road tripping home right now.
Okay, so there's no time for learning today. It's 9 hours of driving. Maybe this might change your plan, though. If you're going to now no longer be quarantined just by yourself and you're going to be with other people, there might be less learning available to you, less failing. You have failed at the guitar. You have failed at reading successfully without falling asleep. You have failed at woodworking. Yep. So are you going to continue down this path, or is our experiment over? Now you're just going to go spend time with your family and enjoy runs through neighborhoods where you can enjoy families planting flowers.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. So my brother obviously hasn't gotten any of these updates for the week, and so I told him that I'm going to be in his house. And they're remodeling their house right now, and he said, I have a ceiling fan I need you to switch out. So we got an old one. We're going to put a new one in. And so he obviously hasn't had any updates of all the failures that I've had this week. So he's going to trust me working with electricals in his house. And so I had no experience with that. I have one time I hung a ceiling fan in a house, and 2 years later it came back in the inspection report that it was done wrong. But nobody died and the house didn't burn down, so I don't really see an issue with it. So anyway, so I think we'll have more updates to come, especially if I'm hanging some ceiling fans in the days to come.
Does Cody Zeller need a ladder to hang a ceiling fan?
No way.
No, not at all, actually. No, not at all. He's got some painting for me to do as well. So, obviously 2 7-footers. So, we'll be able to cover some ground.
All right. Well, we will check in with you again. Have a safe drive. We will talk to you on Monday. We want to. I still got a bunch of questions. I should ask you here before you go. How much money you raised? I know you started a lemonade stand in order to try and keep Kemba Walker, where you were selling lemonade for 25 cents a cup. I'm just wondering how much money you raised, and clearly you failed there as well.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things went wrong. First of all, the competition on the street was pretty tough, and also the kids on the street are pretty good negotiators. So I gave away a lot of free cups of lemonade. So once again, all learning experiences. You learn from your mistakes. So obviously Kemba left, so it didn't raise quite enough money. So we'll stay tuned.
Seems like a lot of people wanted him to stay.
Yes. Cody, we appreciate your time. Again, we will check in with you on Monday. Thank you for making the time.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. I cannot wait to hear about his ceiling fan adventures. Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful thing that would be to be able to fix a ceiling fan without needing a ladder. Like that.
Why does his brother call a pro, though? I mean, seriously. How are you going to have money?
I mean, they're all sort of quarantined right now, Stu.
Yeah, the pros aren't coming to the house right now. We will do something here next that is always very popular around here. Stugotz is perpetually mispronouncing words. John Amici is one of the most brilliant people that we know inside or outside of sports. John Amici has never correctly won the game where he wins by picking more correct words that Stugotz has mispronounced than wrong ones. So we will do that next.
Today on ESPN Daily, an Italian Major League Baseball scout shares insights from the center of the pandemic and the unlikely story of how he came to love the game. That's ESPN Daily, presented by ADT. Download, subscribe, and review ESPN Daily. Available wherever you enjoy your podcast. Stump The Meech is brought to you by My Computer Career, training for a better life.
Normally we open up the club to end the work week, but the club government-mandated quarantine. No clubs are open. We don't have access to any of our normal toys, 20 years of library. We can't do any of the things that we normally do around here. So the club has been quarantined, but if you check out South Beach Sessions, and next week we've got one with Shea Serrano. Barack Obama just saluted him for some of the stuff he's doing on the internet where he's just giving away money. This is a New York Times bestseller. His story is really improbable, and he will be the subject of next week's South Beach Session. But we did one recently with John Amici, the former NBA player who is a frequent guest of this show, and at the end of it, we did one of our most popular segments. It is Stump the Meech. It is Stugotz mispronouncing words, and John Amici, a brilliant man, has to figure out what it is that Stugotz was trying to say. Let's play that sound from a recent South Beach session.
Can we just reiterate right now that I have won this game?
You've never won this game.
I've won this game once. You guys, I tell you what, you've burnt the tape, but I know it's true.
No, you have never won this. None of us remember you winning. We would have celebrated.
Oh, here we go.
We would have been amazed.
None of us remember.
None of us remember. So here's the first one. All he's got to do is get more right than wrong. We got 5 of them for him here. What is the first mispronunciation from Stugotz?
Analysis.
I think I actually know this one.
Analysis.
See, either it's Dallas or analysis, and I want to go with, because it's farther away, I don't know. One more time.
Analysis.
See, I think it's Dallas, but that's too simple.
Analysis.
Analysis?
That's what I would have guessed.
Wow, spot on.
That would have been my guess.
Wow.
All right. So
my eyes started getting like saucers once he started thinking about Dallas.
Yes, but he did. I love that he talked it out and he ended up. No, what could be even more of a mispronunciation?
That's way too close for him. That's
right.
Analysis.
First one's always a softball.
Yeah, Chris says that one was too easy.
Yeah.
Chris thinks that wasn't hard enough.
Chris can keep his opinion to himself.
All right.
Whoa!
All right. One to Meech.
All
one
right.
to Meech.
Give me the second one.
Formula.
I think I know this one.
Formula.
Okay, so this is... I hate this because it's jumping out at me immediately. So it's either formula, but having said that, I can't imagine a context in which Stugotz would have to say that word. Or a more sporty type descriptor word, formidable.
Oh, all right. You are overthinking this because I think.
Okay, so let's have it one more time.
Formula.
Maybe more than once.
Formula.
I think it's formidable.
Despite Dan trying to help you out, it is formula.
Oh, no.
You overthought
no,
it, just
you
as
did
Dan
overthink
said.
it. I did. I was trying to help you. I was trying to help you cheat so you could have a victory. What's the third one now?
Draw.
Well, come on now.
Draw. Draw.
This is one of those where, like a spelling bee, I want to hear that in a sentence.
Draw.
Well, that is clearly, obviously, the phrase Detroit Pistons center now of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Andrew Drummond.
Draw. Draw. Draw.
It's Andre Drummond, Dan. That's a fine.
Draw. Draw.
I've absolutely got nothing. Hold on.
Draw.
Drug?
Is that your final answer?
Nah, it's wrong.
I would have guessed. I would have guessed either drum or drunk.
Drawer.
Draw.
That's a Northeast thing, Meech.
Yeah.
Draw.
I just paid the fine.
That is a tragedy right there.
It really is. I'm sorry. So now this is getting hard. Hopefully he'll be able to get this one right so that number 5 is the big seismic moment.
Good guys 2, bad guy 1.
Hermaphrodites.
Oh.
Hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites.
Just keep playing because
Hermaphrodites. 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 Hermaphrodites.
Hermaphrodite.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, right.
There we go.
Of course. Of course. What do you mean? Oh, God.
But What cause is there to say that word in the course of a broadcast?
I don't know.
We have a lot of weird and finalies.
Hermaphrodites.
Okay, good. I'm back in. Everything's fine.
2-2.
This is huge.
Down to the final one.
I feel like that's one of the easiest ones you've ever given him.
Hermaphrodites.
What else could it possibly be?
I was gonna go with a permafrost.
It's such a good question. What else could it possibly be?
Well, it's
Hermaphrodites.
It could be literally anything from a word with one syllable to an entire sentence.
Hermaphrodites.
All right, let's do this.
Good guys 2, bad guy 2.
Yes, this is enormous here. This could be your first ever victory that we remember.
Listen, stop trying to distract. Let's get to this. Oh, I hate you so much right now.
Merce.
It's almost like you're taunting me with this now.
It is, and tickling me. Taunting you and tickling me.
Is it most, or is it... Well, that's not my final answer. Missed.
Which is it, Meech?
I'm going to go with missed.
It's most.
Oh my God! Holy he threw it! He threw his microphone at a human being!
Sorry, I had to pick up my headphones.
You had it!
I was...
it!
This is an injustice. That's all I want to say right now. No, this is... I was robbed.
You were not robbed. You made your own decisions.
I'm sorry, that was robbed.
You made your own life choices. You had victory in your hands and you let it go. Unbelievable.
Squandered.
Stunning.
You're getting better at this game.
You are getting better.
Yes, you better pick it up because I'm going to get my second victory any day soon.
I appreciate you being on with us. Thank you, Meech.
A pleasure. Take care.
Hermaphrodites.
What else could it have been? I mean, maybe Jimmer Fredette? I don't even know. What else could it have been other than hermaphrodites? I really don't know any other words that could have been assembled to put together that sentence. Let's update the polls here before we get everyone out of here. At Batard Show on Twitter is where you go if you want to vote on the polls all week. And again, our apologies on not being able to open up the club. As you know, everything is shut down. There are very few places that you can go that are open right now, and the club is not one of them. We have had to shut it down. At Batard Show is where you go to vote on the polls. What do we have there, Stugotz?
Has America made 5 good basketball movies? 60% of the audience, lot of votes on this. 60% of the audience said no, Dan. We have not made 5 good basketball movies. Is Teen Wolf a werewolf movie or a basketball movie? This is a big one. 64% of the audience said werewolf movie. Is the movie Teen Wolf racist? Oh, jeez. Cannonball. 57 points. And listen, sometimes I have to vote on these to get them updated. I voted yes, but I meant no. 57.6% of the audience said yes. Did you know that there's a phobia that's the fear of beautiful women? 73.5% of the audience said no, they had no idea. Those are the polls today, Dan.
All right. We hope that you have a good weekend. We will try to do better next week. We will, in all probability, fail. But thank you for all of your patience. We will talk to you again on Monday.